What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the third part in the Building a $100,000 a Month Online Coaching Offer series. And in this video, we're going to cover how to build a sales process that will print 100K a month for your coaching offer. Okay, so what is a sales process? Well, this is the thing that's going to actually convince your audience to buy into your offer. Okay, so we've created your offer. You know what you're selling. You know who you're selling to. We've done a launch process. So we've built up all this hype and we've launched it. Okay, so what are we directing them to? Well, we're directing them towards a sales asset. And the process of directing them there, as well as closing them after, is going to be what's known as a sales process. And so, why is a sales process so important? So, without your sales asset and process, you'll never convince anyone to buy from you. So, if you just post content and good educational content and you build your offer and you maybe launch it and you have like a link in your bio for a payment link, right? There's no process there. There's no sales asset. You're not actually trying to convince anyone to buy from you. That's why it's so important that you actually create a process. Think of it like the vehicle in which your prospect takes to become a client. It starts at the launch or at the content, and they take this vehicle, which is the sales process, and they're driven in it until they become a client and they pay you. And there are an infinite amount of ways to make a sales process and so many different assets to sell through. But since this is high ticket, I will be assuming that you are going to be using a sales call to close your clients, or a sales call is going to be a part of the flow because this is aimed at selling $2, $3, $4, $5,000 plus items. I will always, and for all of my clients, be using a sales call. So what does an example of sales process look like? Okay, maybe you direct them to a webinar. After that webinar, there's a call to action to a sales call. You get the sale. Maybe you go straight from a call to action from one of your videos to DMs, and you set someone in the DMs onto a sales call. You could go from a story CTA to a video sales letter to a sales call. You could do a 3-day workshop to a sales call. You can have them join the low ticket. In the low ticket, they see a VSL, and then they go from there to a sales call. There's just an infinite amount of possibilities, and the exact process that you use is going to depend on your niche, on your followers, their style, your style. What are you best at doing? So I'm not going to give you some singular way that's better than every other process. It's simply going to depend on your preference and how you decide to go about it. But I will say the most vital part is the sales call. Okay, and I'm going to center the process around the sales call. That's always what I'm thinking when I'm making a new sales process for a client. I'm always centering it around the call, and we want the lead to be warmed up before they get on the call. So if they see one piece of content and then all of a sudden are directed to a sales call, they're not going to be warmed up. They're not going to be ready to buy. And ultimately, you'll never make the sale. So your lead needs to be nurtured before entering the sales call. And this is mainly done with content, right? The more content that you give them, the more content they watch, the more familiar they're going to be with you, the more authority you're going to have, the more credibility you're going to have, and the more likely they are to buy. And like I said, if you try to, and this brings me next to my next point, is how should you position your sales process? How should you position your funnels so that you don't funnel someone in after watching one reel to a sales call that's just ultimately not going to close them? Okay, so you always need to think about how your lead is going to be nurtured before entering the sales call. Okay, so there's a 3-phase process to warm up and close your leads that I've come up with. So phase 1 is warming up and setting the lead on the call. Okay, so I've made 2 examples. One for if you're sending them to the DMs, another if you're doing like a workshop or a webinar or one-to-many. Okay, so say you're in the DMs. So they've watched some content, they've watched some music videos, and now they see a CTA to DM, coaching or whatever it is. And so they DM this, okay, and now you have them in the DMs and you're sending them onto a sales call. Okay, so this process, you're going to find your lead's current state, their pain points, and their desired outcome through questioning. Now that you have their problem and you have their pain points, you're going to pitch a sales call as a way to solve the problem. But what you're doing is you're qualifying the lead, you're extracting important information about them, and you're proposing to solve their exact problem or problems with your product to get to their desired outcome. And from there, you'll book the sales call. So with this process, You can qualify the leads, so see if they're ready to get on a sales call. If they're not, then don't book them. You extract the information necessary about their situation. You solve their unique problem using your offer, using your product, so that they can arrive at their desired outcome. Or similarly, if you're running a webinar or a workshop, it works the same way, but as a one-to-many. So maybe you're not in the DMs, you're still explaining common pain points of your audience, the people watching the webinar. You're pointing out their current state. They're currently making under $10,000 a month working 9 to 5s. They feel tired, they feel overworked, they feel like they don't have enough freedom. You're showing them their desired outcome. They want to be making $20,000 a month, doing this, this, and that, quit their job. And you're going to show how your product will get them there, how it will take them from point A to point B. And you'll see that even in these two totally different situations, in the DMs or in like a webinar with 1,000 people watching, you're ultimately doing the same thing. And at the end, you add a CTA the same way you do in the DMs for a sales call, for them to book a sales call. And I only use these two examples, but once again, if you're doing a VSL, a video sales letter, and you make a 10-minute video, it's the same exact thing. You're simply qualifying the lead, extracting the information, and proposing to solve their exact problems to hit their desired outcome. And that's phase one of the sales process, is making sure that they're properly warmed up, they're actually qualified to be getting on this call, and that you've set expectations to what's going to happen on this call. And that is that their problem is going to be solved. Okay, so now the sales call is booked, but the warming up and the nurturing does not end there, because if you just book them on a sales call for 3 days in advance, you send a 24-hour reminder and maybe a 1-hour reminder, and you expect them to get on that call ready to buy, you would be an idiot. The pre-call process is so incredibly important, not only for your show-up rates, but your close rates as well. Okay, because without a proper pre-call flow, the show-up rates will be low because no one has any incentive to show up, and your close rates will be extremely low. So you need to give your prospects an actual reason to show up. And the best way to do this, the best way to make sure that a prospect shows up to a sales call, is to make them take action before the call. You cannot leave it up to automated reminders alone. They just aren't enough. So I built out an example pre-call flow that I use to warm up the prospect and get them ready before the sales call. Okay, so the setter sets the call, or the webinar, or the VSL, and the call set. Okay, if we're using a setter, we're adding them to a group chat with the closer, an iMessage group chat, or we're having a setter reach out if they were booked not using a setter. So if they were booked on a webinar, we're having a setter reach out, call them, and still add them to a group chat with this closer. And the closer is the person who's going to be on the call closing them. And so the setter's going to send the initial message. Hey, this is, so-and-so. He's going to be on call with you on Friday. And the closer is going to send them a video to watch. And it's basically just a pre-made video from the offer owner. So either you or your client, it's basically going to be setting expectations for the prospect to show up on time, get ready to take action, be able to be in a quiet space for 45 minutes, whatever the requirements are for your sales call. This video is going to outline them. And then you're going to have the prospect confirm that they've actually watched the video by sending a message. So now they're taking action, and it's imprinted in their mind everything that was in that call. Okay. Additionally, you could have your closer call them as soon as they get added to the group chat and confirm manually that way. But then after that, what's going to happen is the closer is going to send them testimonials to watch. So if you don't have any testimonials, don't worry about it. You can skip this part for now. But if you do have good film testimonials or interviews with your students, this is the time when your closer is going to be sending them to your prospect. And so now, in these testimonials, it should have gone over the full process, how you took so-and-so from A to B using your process, what happened, where were they at before, where are they at now, how's their life changed, how are they better? And basically what's going to happen is that the prospect is going to see themselves in this person, and how your client, how you took them from the position where they're at now to the position where they want to be. So they're seeing the process happen right in front of them. And this is the number one way to get your prospect to show up and to get them ready for the call, is through a relatable testimonial. And you can send multiple, and also make sure that they are confirming that they've actually watched the video. You need to make sure that they're taking action every single time, and you're not just sending 10, 20 messages to someone who's not responding. Okay. Besides that, I also have my closer call them 24 hours before the call, and just another reminder. make sure, they're verbally confirming that they can show up, as well as an hour before as well. So I'm going to have them call an hour before, ring, ring, ring. Hey, Daniel, are you ready for our call in an hour? Make sure you arrive right at 2. You're in a quiet space, blah, blah, blah. Is everything good? Boom. And then on top of that, we are still going to have the automated reminders. So when they're booked, they're going to get a text message 24 hours before, 12 hours, 3 hours, 1 hour, 10 minutes, 5 minutes. When the call starts, they're going to still be getting email and text reminders, but that alone is not enough. It helps, and it's certainly necessary, but the actual person-to-person flow with your setters and closers is going to be so much more important. And so if you do all this, your prospects will actually have a reason to show up, right? They've seen the testimonials, they've seen the video from you, they've confirmed multiple times they've had 2 in-person phone calls with your closer, or 3, they're in a group chat, they actually have a reason to show up, which now brings us into phase 3. So now your prospects are actually going to get on the sales call. And like everything else, a sales call is a repeatable framework. It should be formal and structured, and you need to hold yourself or your closer to the highest possible standard. Because if you or your closer, show up late, you have a bad mic, bad camera quality, you're going to instantly lose all authority and credibility that you've built up to this point. Like imagine you are showing up to a sales call where you're going to possibly spend $5,000 and the guy shows up in a hoodie on his phone with earbuds. Like, are you really going to take him seriously? Are you really going to fork over 2 months rent to this guy? Probably not. So you need to show up 5 minutes before the start time of your call. You need to have everything ready, payment links, a script if you need a script. You need to be dressed nicely. I'm not saying you need to be in a full suit, but get out of the hoodie. Make sure your camera's set up nicely. Your mic is already working and sounds good, because you need to set the tone for the call. But other than that, it's going to be up to whoever's on the call, you or your closer. It's going to be up to their sales skills. I'm not going to spend an hour going into sales strategies. You can go figure that out somewhere else. But if I'm going to break it down, you have the opening rapport. Spend a minute or 2 creating some rapport. Explore their current state, explore their pain points, extract information. Give them the pitch. Show them what the actual offer is. How's it going to help them? Handle objections, get that close. And as soon as you close them, the fulfillment starts and the sales process is over. So to summarize, we're going back. It doesn't matter how you do it. You need to make sure that you center the sales process around a sales call, that while setting the sales call, if you're doing in DMs, a VSL, a webinar, whatever it is, you need to make sure that the lead is actually warmed up. You need to extract all relevant information from them. You need to figure out their problems and propose to solve their problems so that they can get to their desired outcomes. And now you've set them, and now they have the sales call booked. Now you need to actually make sure that they're going to show up ready to buy on the sales call. So that's why you're going to make a good pre-call flow. You're going to have them take action multiple times in the days or hours or whatever it is leading up to the call. They're going to take one-on-one verbal calls from your closer. They're going to be added to a group chat. They're going to watch testimonials. They're going to watch a video from you. Then they're actually going to show up on the call, and you're going to use a repeatable framework. Show up to the call, ready to close them. Set the tone. Keep your authority, and then use your actual sales skills to close them. And after that, they're going to now be entering into the fulfillment. So now you're actually going to deliver results to them, which I will go over in the next part and final part of the series. And if you guys want this entire board, if you want to go through it yourself, just go to my Instagram. It's right here. It's also in the description of this video, and just DM me the word asset, and I'll send over not only this board, but every single board from all of my YouTube videos, so you guys can go through and look at it all for yourselves. And other than that, if you are an online coach, creator, or consultant, and you already have an info offer, or you don't have an offer, but you are a professional in your niche, I do want you to go to this link right here. It's also going to be in the description of this video, and watch the video that I made for you and see if I can actually scale your info offer. But other than that, thank you guys for watching this video. And like always, if you're interested in growing or scaling your online coaching offer, go ahead and go to my YouTube channel and check out every single one of my videos. I give out all the information that I have. I don't hold a single thing back.